I am smiling right now. Why am I smiling? Not because Justice League was the greatest movie of all time. I'm smiling because Superman smiled. Henry Cavill smiled. Henry Cavill Superman smiled in a movie directed by Zack Snyder and Joss Whedon off to the side, but he smiled and he actually laughed. The amount of happiness I felt at seeing my favorite character finally starting to act a little bit more like my favorite character, that for me totally overshadowed all of the dumb stuff in it. And yes, I totally acknowledge there was plenty of dumb stuff, as there always is in Zack Snyder movies, but the experience for me in watching this was kind of like battle of two parts of my brain. I've got the critic part of my brain going, you know, that's really stupid the way they brought Superman back to life, but then the fan part of my brain is like, shut up, Superman's smiling. He's smiling. And at the end of it, I just let go of the critic part of my brain and I just embraced the fandom again. And it was like hugging an old friend that you haven't seen in a really long time. And even though you and that friend have got like a lot of bad history, you don't care, because in that moment, you're just happy to see him again. That's what Justice League was like to me. The DC movies have had a really difficult time, and I'm sure many of you who feel the same way I do about some of the previous DC movies know that it's been difficult. It's certainly been difficult. I mean, it took them many, many movies, but I think they finally started to listen, and they finally started to do what all of us have been saying since the end of Man of Steel. Again, if they just listened to us, the fans, online more often, they could save themselves a lot of time and a lot of trouble and a lot of money too. But it's here, we finally have a decent Justice League live-action movie. And, well, I mean, do we have any other DC live-action Justice Leagues? Not really, but you know what I mean. But many of us said after Man of Steel, then Batman v Superman, then Suicide Squad, we said, look, they just need to make a good movie. Not a fantastic movie, just a good movie. And they did with Wonder Woman. And while that certainly did seem to be turning the corner of the DCU, when you've struck out with 3 movies, you're kind of wondering if maybe that's just a blip in the radar and we'll get back into horribleness, especially considering the Justice League was being made at the same time. But I'm happy to say, after seeing Justice League, Wonder Woman was not just a blip on the radar. We indeed have turned a corner with DC now, and we are actually getting good movies. Now, was the plot simplistic and dumb? Yes. Was the villain generic and dumb? Yes. Was the way they brought Superman back, as I already said, dumb? Yes, it was all dumb. But I feel like we needed another just very simple story just to prove that they can at least get the tone right. And then once they've got that, we can go for a bit more of a complex, intriguing storyline. See, they tried to do the super, way too complicated storyline with the wrong tone and totally wrong characterization. Now they've flipped it the other way. So now we can kind of balance it out again. But what I do worry about is the carryover effect from bad movies to good movies. I think I've mentioned this before in previous videos, where if you have a bad movie, a movie that bombs, the next movie in the franchise, even if it's way, way better, tends to underperform because of that carryover effect, that bad taste in people's mouths still around. I mean, that's why X-Men First Class made less money than Wolverine Origins, even though it's a far superior film than Wolverine Origins, because the bad taste was still in people's mouths. And after 3 bombs, that's a lot of bad taste in your mouth. But Wonder Woman seemed to be immune to that, possibly because she's unique enough of a character and sort of the recognizability factor, is that even a word? I don't know. But she's a distinct enough character that people will see a Wonder Woman movie simply because it's Wonder Woman. In the same way that people know who Batman is or Superman is on their own, people know who Wonder Woman is. So she seemed to be immune to that flow-on effect, that bad taste. Looking at the box office for Justice League though, because people will closely associate this much more with Batman v Superman in their minds, even though we had Wonder Woman in between, because of the directors and because of, you know, having the same cast to an extent. But it does seem to be suffering a bit at the box office from that flow-on effect. And considering this movie cost something like $300 million to make, that could be a real problem. This is something else DC has to deal with these movies. It's like, don't spend so much on these movies. I mean, like $300 million for this, but it didn't really look that expensive. Like, where did that money go? Just to CG off Henry Cavill's moustache? I mean, could he just shave it and then wear a fake moustache for whatever the other movie was he's filming? I don't know. Wouldn't that be cheaper than just CG? Anyway, just want to let you guys know, I'm not going to give any spoilers here. I'm just going to say, if you're a DC fan and you felt similar to how I felt after coming out of Batman v Superman, it's okay. You can go and see this one.